I got some advice for passport bro Auston Holleman. You need to pick up a copy of Stop Simpin' on Amazon.com right now. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes Godbreaker at online booksellers today. I was watching a Mad Black video where he was talking about how passport bro Auston Holleman was forced out of Brazil by Brazilian feminist Stephanie Ribeiro. And according to the reports that I've been hearing online, your Auston Holleman, who Ringo had said was the leader of the Passport Bros, was forced out of Brazil because this Brazilian feminist, Stephanie Ribeiro, went out here and wrote hit pieces about him and also alerted people to him being in Brazil for alleged sex tourism. And as a result of Stephanie Ribeiro's articles and her alerting the media, Auston Holleman was forced to leave Brazil, and he was forced to flee the country because he was dealing with so much negative backlash from many in the country who were upset about him going out here and making videos talking about Brazilian women, and also making lots of videos where he was out here making thirsty comments towards these Brazilian women. Now, when I take a critical examination of your Auston Holleman, he really reminds me of Bakari Henderson. Now, Bakari Henderson was a young man just like Auston Holleman, and he was a young guy who was one of those guys who had bought into integration, and he was out here in America dating white girls, and he was also looking to build a business abroad. And he got his passport and decided to go over to Greece, and when he went over to Greece, he was out here traveling, thinking everybody was all a part of the great world melting pot, and everybody all believed the same things that he did here in America. And he unfortunately went to one of these bars in Greece that was run by a bunch of Serbian racists and white supremacists, and he made the innocent move of trying to take a selfie with one of those waitresses inside of that bar, and he wound up getting ambushed and attacked by people in that bar, the white men in that bar, and those white supremacists sadly beat Bakari Henderson to death. And your Auston Holleman doesn't really know how blessed he was, because with the way he was behaving, he could have easily become another person like Bakari Henderson who was traveling and lost his life overseas, because like Bakari Henderson, your Auston Holleman was one of these young green guys, and as a young green guy, he was out here not having much life experience, and he really didn't have an understanding of how white supremacy is global, nor did he have an understanding of how a black man has to move in this world. No, like Bakari Henderson, your Auston Holleman was an extremely naive young man, and this naive young man was traveling overseas with a head full of dysfunctional ideas, like Mad Black has talked about, that he got from social media, watching many of these gender war videos where he heard a lot of this rhetoric talking about how bad black women were, and how his only option was to go out here and get his passport and go out here and try to pursue a relationship with a foreign woman. Unfortunately, your Auston Holleman did not have any of the male life skills that he needed in order to navigate the world, and because he did not have the male life skills and male survival skills to go out here and know how to move in the world, this is where your Auston Holleman wound up becoming a target due to his extremely dysfunctional behaviors. Like what I talk about in my book, Stop Simpin', Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, as related to thirsty dudes. Your Auston Holleman was running out here in Brazil with his head filled with ideas from these gender war videos, And he was also out here running on his feelings about black women, and he wasn't thinking critically about how he needed to move in Brazil. And as he went to Brazil, he thought he could do like many of these white vloggers, and he thought he could go out here and start running up on women, making these videos where he was trying to go out here and talk about how much better these Brazilian women were, when what he was doing was going out here and showing everybody how green he was, because only a green guy is going to go to a foreign country carrying expensive cameras or expensive cell phones, running up on women and making all sorts of videos that make him appear to be thirsty. Because when you go to somebody else's country and you behave in this fashion, you're basically putting a target on your back. And that's what your Auston Holleman was doing as he was living in Brazil. And as he was living in Brazil and caught up in his feelings about these Brazilian women and looking to try to get easy attention and easy sex out of Brazilian women, he could not see the danger he was in, because he was caught up in his emotions about these Brazilian women and not thinking about more important intangibles to himself, like his safety and his freedom. And that's sadly what happens with many young green guys, because they're so spellbound and caught up in getting attention from a non-black woman that they're not thinking about their own health and safety as a man. Because like Mad Voodoo Man, aka the Iceman, talks about in his videos, because he's a seasoned traveler, you have to watch how you move in these countries, because many of these males in these countries, they really are not happy about black men coming to their country and having these men coming into their country stepping to their women. This is something that many of the passport bros don't want to talk about. Many of the passport bros, all they're thinking about is getting some easy sex out of a foreign woman, and they're not really thinking about their own safety. And that's sadly what Auston Holleman wasn't thinking about. He was out here making all of these thirsty videos, getting caught up in the attention he was receiving from the women, and also getting caught up in the attention and the subs and the views he was getting from his videos. And he was living a life as a YouTube celebrity, not understanding that that whole life that he was living was an extremely dangerous one. Now, many of these passport guys, they get upset about hearing these kind of truths, and sadly they don't want to hear that you need to really think about something more than the attention you get from women. So many of these guys, they can't really reason this kind of stuff to them, and a lot of them are looking at Stephanie Ribeiro and looking to blame Stephanie Ribeiro for him being run out of Brazil. But it's better that he be run out of Brazil than be carried out of Brazil in a body bag. Because had Auston Holleman continued on with his extremely thirsty and dysfunctional behavior, he definitely would have been getting targeted by the locals, who possibly would have seen him participating in his simp behavior. And as they saw him in his simp behavior, going out here running up on women, making these kind of thirsty comments, and then possibly flashing money and wearing expensive clothes, those locals, who in many cases are poor in Brazil, they would have targeted Auston Holleman possibly for, at the least, a robbery, or at the worst, they would have targeted him and he would have wound up losing his life. And because he was caught up in his lust, he might have possibly run into one of these women in Brazil, and one of those women who would have been out here, she would have possibly set this dude up for a robbery. Because when you have a nation filled with poor women like Brazil, they will go out here and easily go out here and be a part of a crew looking to go out here and set you up for a robbery. And that flew over Auston Holleman's head, because again, Like Bakari Henderson, he's one of these young guys, and he's a young guy who really doesn't know how the world works. He doesn't know how the dangers of the world. And what's really more troubling to me is that there are a lot of older men who know the dangers of the world, and they're not sitting down teaching this young man about the dangers of the world as related to not only white supremacists in nations like Brazil and racists in nations like Brazil who really don't see a black man as any sort of person they want to deal with outside of getting his money. They're not also teaching him that he has to know how to navigate life in this world. And the first rule about navigating life in this world is you gotta watch your back. And these older men, they are just, again, so spellbound and caught up in getting attention from women. They're not really teaching this boy about the things that he needs to learn in order to survive as a man. And they're sitting there talking about how somebody is a penis police officer. No, people are trying to protect Auston Holleman and many of the other young guys who have bought into the passport narrative, because we know that many of these young men don't really know how the world works. And we see that a lot of these young guys, they really don't know how the world works. And because they have not been really taught how things go, they're winding up in bad situations like Bakari Henderson wound up in, and the same way Takeoff wound up in a bad situation. And again, this is the trend that's going on. We have young black males who are getting into bad situations because, one, they did not have a father to teach them male life skills and male survival skills. Two, we didn't have a father to teach them how to socialize and navigate the world. And three, we didn't have any men in the community to go out here and mentor these young men. So we've got a lot of young green men running out here, and they're winding up getting themselves into dangerous situations where they possibly could wind up losing their lives. And that's sadly what happened to Bakari Henderson, and that's what happened to Takeoff. You had two young men who didn't know how to move in the world, and because they didn't know how to move in the world, they were winding up being moved out in a body bag and moved into a graveyard. And as I see it, your Auston Holleman really needs to count his blessings, because God oftentimes looks out for those who don't know. And I believe in this case, he did look out for someone who didn't know by having Stephanie Ribeiro put there. Because when Stephanie Ribeiro was put there, I believe it was the Most High looking out for Auston Holleman, because he knew that Auston Holleman didn't know anything outside of what he saw on YouTube. And as he was sitting there in that echo chamber, listening to all of these Passport Bro videos and all of these gender war videos and these high value man videos, there was nobody there to really look out for him. So the Most High looked out for him by having Stephanie Ribeiro, a feminist, go out here and write these hit pieces to let people know about him. And ironically, by letting everybody know about him, this could have possibly wound up saving his life, because had he continued on with his extremely thirsty behavior, Auston Holleman might have been leaving Brazil not on his own, but carried out in a body bag, and that could have been his final fate. Because if you go into certain countries and you're starting to act real thirsty, you're going to attract a lot of attention to yourself. And when that's what Auston Holleman was doing, making these thirsty videos, going out here acting real silly in any of these videos, talking about these Brazilian women, he was basically letting everybody know, hey, I'm an easy mark, and as an easy mark, I'm here to be taken advantage of. But the Most High knows that sometimes you don't know that somebody is out to get you, and that's why he'll work in a mysterious way. And I believe that the Most High worked in a mysterious way to save Auston Holleman from himself, because this self-described leader of the Passport Bros was following a narrative that was going to lead to him falling into a ditch that would have led to him possibly winding up 6 feet under. And Auston Holleman, again, really didn't see where he was going, because when you're a thirsty guy, you're caught up in your emotions. And when you're caught up in your emotions about what you have heard about women, what happens is that you're following what you were told about women, not understanding that you have to go out here and watch women in a different way, because again, when you have no man there to teach you what to look for, you're going to go out here and put a target on your back, and you're going to be taken advantage of by predatory women. And that's basically what Auston Holleman was about to fall into, because again, as a green guy, he was not really understanding how things work. Because again, when you're in your early 20s, you're not really thinking about stuff critically. Again, you don't really start coming into your own as a man until you get about maybe 25, 26, and maybe even in your 30s. That's when you start getting a bit more of a critical perspective. And again, this is a young green guy, and the only difference between him and Bakari Henderson was that there was actually somebody looking out for him, ironically, in Stephanie Ribeiro. And had Stephanie Ribeiro not looked out for him, this guy would have gotten himself set up for a robbery by one of those female predators. Because again, when you're in these countries, you're thinking, oh, she's looking fine, I'm gonna go holler at her, not understanding she's already sized you up. And in some cases, some of these women will size you up because they say, hey, this guy's never been in this area, he's looking like a new guy, his body language is showing me that he's really green. And when they see a young guy like this, they just go out here and they see an easy mark, because just like these guys are out here looking for easy women to drop the skid mark thong and allow them to put the carbon rod in the atomic waste reactor, there are women and guys out there looking to go out here and get this guy to drop their dollars in the best case scenario, or guys looking to get you dropped because they don't like the idea of a black man coming in their country and smashing women that they want to smash, macking women they want to mack, and getting with women that they want to get with. And again, you can't explain this to many of these passport bros who are caught up in their feelings about the subject. And because these males, they get so caught up in their emotions about the subject, what happens to these males is, sadly, they have to wind up learning the hard way. And they have to learn the hard way because no matter how much you try to talk to them, they always want to just talk back at you. And even when seasoned travelers try to talk to them, like Mad Voodoo Man, aka the Iceman, and Mad Black try to talk to these guys, some of these guys, they're so spellbound and so caught up in their feelings about getting attention from non-black women that you can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. And again, when I look at Auston Holleman, I see a young male who should count his blessings, because had he kept on going in the way that he's going, he could easily be another Bakari Henderson. Now, if you want to learn how to avoid situations like Auston Holleman wound up in, you can pick up my books in the Simp series, such as Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, Stop Simping in the Workplace, Stop Simping in Cyberspace, Manginas, The Misadventures of Captain Save'em, and The Man Crisis, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and The Woman Crisis. And the Simp series books will help you understand why you shouldn't be so caught up in your feelings about women that you're not thinking about more important things like your intangibles of manhood and your health, your safety, and your freedom. And if you want to see me make more men's issues videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback, John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Pick up your copy of John Haynes at Death's Door at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere.